I don't think this is cooking as much as this is a virtual way of having a potluck, right? It's talking about, showing, enjoying. Well, we've been together 2 years online. Before that, I was doing regular, dinners in person, and I'm actually very, very, very worn out. Oops. Because Friday night, I cooked a dinner for a fundraiser. It was called the Spaghetti Dinner. It was raising money to spay animals.
Spaghetti, I like that.
I cooked and, I served 116 meals.
Oh my God.
Some people tried it. So, you go to the church dinners and have spaghetti, and you usually have, I don't know, a kind of lackadaisical tomato soup sauce.
Yeah.
Well, I made a really, really nice, thick, 2 sauces. One was local grass-fed beef, and the other was shiitake and lion's mane mushroom sauce.
Wow. Gourmet.
And used a lot of good local organic tomatoes.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. The tomatoes imparted. Have you ever had tomato sauce where they put a little wine in it? Where like it gives it that deep back taste of like richness and earthiness. And it ended up having that. Basically, all I put in was, cook those tomatoes cooked forever, and then added to that caramelized onions and the meat or the mushroom, depending on which sauce it was. Now, each sauce, this is how much I needed 10 pounds of onions for each one.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's how much in volume. It was 16 pounds of spaghetti uncooked.
Wow.
I did have some extra spaghetti at the end.
How big was the pot you were doing?
I had a couple cans of tomato sauce spare. Anyway, that was a ramble to say, this is what I used to do in person regularly with the dinners. And then, the pandemic started and we stopped. But then, I don't know. So this was like August of the first year of the pandemic, and I started talking to some friends I made online, and someone has said, well, you could do that virtually. And I was like, well, I teach solar classes online. I'm used to doing that. Why couldn't I teach a cooking class? And I talked Emily she had just got back from Thailand, and she was our first person on. And originally we were going to do it once a month. And so many people wanted to do it, we switched to once a week. And right now it is the beginning of September. Mm-hmm. And we're actually booking for the last week of November. So
wow.
We have an opening in November and then December. So it's absolutely phenomenal. The joy of cooking and sharing that across the world. What do we have? 3 countries right now, and 6 countries represented, probably.
But how many states? 1, 2, 3.
California, Nevada, Illinois, and North Carolina, and Suzanne's in
Minneapolis,
Minnesota.
Yep, Minnesota.
And so, I'm in a state of exhaustion. Friday night, I did the 6 hours of cooking.
Wow.
For that dinner. And then last night, I took my mom and we went yesterday and we did a tour of local farms and wineries. And then on the way home, I had cooked food for this, but I realized we were going to pass the site of this festival. And I said, hey, Mom, would you mind just stopping for, like an hour for the
festival. This is where you were crowned king?
No, I guess it's not a secret, but
Charles Spaniel.
Yeah, and so yeah, all the past kings and queens celebrated and picked me to be king, and then of course I celebrated well into the night with the tomato festival. So there was a potluck with, and I never made it home to get my food to bring to the potluck. I was just, and my mom never decided she wanted to leave, and people just kept showing up. And people, like one guy came up and he's like, an hour ago I came up to the table and you were standing by the table. Why are you still here? I was like, well, I'm in organization mode. I was like being, you know, the host and the organizing, keeping clean the food at the potluck table. But we're talking 3 tables full of, majority of it tomato based. Wow. Although some of them, they tricked us. There was one I thought was a yellow tomato salad, and it turned out to be yellow watermelon. They had put some mint on it. And then another one I thought was tomato salad because it had feta cheese on it and basil. And again, it was watermelon.
Oh my goodness.
You invented a new dish.
Yeah. So, yeah, every time someone new showed up, I was like, don't bring more food. I'm already full. I already tasted everything. So,
so what are we doing on this anniversary party? Are we sharing the different?
So today is like a virtual potluck. So bring your favorite dish to the potluck and talk about it, or maybe not your favorite dish, what you have sitting around. So.
Well, I didn't make anything special for this program, but there were 2 dishes in which I actually made a second time that I liked from this program. And
you're talking about from the program, yeah?
From the program. And the first one was like a fusion pasta that one of the ladies did. And because you have everything in the house to do it, it was so easy. And it tastes so good. And it just was, do you remember it?
Yeah, you're talking about Deepa's fusion.
Yes.
I love having her come back on the show because her family's from Nepal and they own a spice factory, and she is really good at layering spices. You know,
well, that one was very
dishes
good.
Up.
And then I the one that Fred had done, was putanesca. I'd never had that.
That's the one I'm going to do today. I'm going to do putanesca today.
So because I had never used sardines in cooking like that, and
anchovies.
Wow, it turns out to be so good.
Yeah, exactly. People say, "Oh, you want your pizza with anchovies?" Oh no, I hate anchovies. Of course,
that's anchovies. I meant not sardines.
A lot of food they eat, anchovies are in the food, and they don't even know it's in there because it's used as a flavor enhancer.
Yeah, so that was such a surprise, and I actually did that a second time. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that one today, Barbara. That's my go-to dish for today. As a matter of fact, I put information in the chat already.
Can you guys read this sign?
I can see it.
Can you guys read what it says here? I put this up to block the sun when it's really sunny there. But it says, love people, eat them, tasty food. Now that's where punctuation is really important. It says, eat them, tasty food. And when I first saw it, I thought there was a comma. I thought it was eat them, tasty food. But, and so I bought it because I thought it was funny, but it turns out to be a logo for some company or something. But yeah, punctuation matters. So, Barbara, you might give me some tips because the dish I would like to make is like an African tomato spicy like soup where you put the hard-boiled eggs in it. Now,
well, usually you make the hard-boiled egg before and you have it on the side. And then, of course, the secret to using the tomato is it has to be really cooked and simmered for a long time, so it gets kind of thick and has more flavor and all that. So, I mean, that takes a little while to do that tomato. business. And then at the very end, before you serve it, that's when they add the boiled egg. It's already been cooked in another pan, and the shell taken off. And then you put it in the soup like that, and it kind of sticks up, and it's really, it isn't cooked in the soup.
I'll show you here. I'll switch camera, and I'll show you. Think I got enough hard-boiled eggs?
Oh my God.
Easy.
So what I do, I thought I would bring out something because again, it's in the US, it's harvest time. So this is the time where we have what do you call it? Fertility harvest festivals. It's like you have a festival to celebrate all the food that we picked over the summer and celebrate that traditionally you have enough food to make it through winter. Now, I like the hard-boiled egg thing because in my case, these hard-boiled eggs, I cook them back in the spring when there was an overabundance of eggs. I shelled them and then I put them in the deep freeze. Now, if you wait that long, you can't use them for egg salad. If you only wait like a month, you can thaw them out and make egg salad. But the longer they're in the freezer, the more like chewy they get.
Oh. And
so I like them for this African soup, but I cook them in the soup a little bit to re-moisturize them so that they soak in some moisture and they get the flavor and not just.
They probably don't have them frozen in Africa in their dish.
So I don't know. I've kind of switched it up a little bit. Now in this case, I'm using leftovers from that tomato thing yesterday, the spaghetti dinner, where I had I don't know, a half gallon of sauce left over.
So you need your African spices.
And so that's where I'll need pointers on, because I usually just throw whatever spices I like in there. I'll fry some onions. I always like to put turmeric in it. So sometimes you'll have a hard-boiled egg that's bright yellow and that weirds people out. But so I want to share what my favorite food is.
Okay.
Which is actually a drink.
A drink.
So I grew up not drinking. I think I had my first drink when I was like 26.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. That I had a grandfather who died young of alcoholism, and I was extremely afraid. It's rampant in Native American communities.
Yeah.
So I was deadly afraid to drink. During the college years, when I would go out with my friends, I would socialize, but I never would drink. So I'm sharing some, private moments here. But I'm a foodie. And so when I would go to have a fancy dinner, I would ask for different drinks. And this right here, Frangelico, is an extremely sweet, sickening sweet drink. As you can see, made by monks. You can kind of see it looks like a little.
And it says liqueur right on the bottom.
Oh yeah, it's a liqueur. Now, what I like this with is I go to a local restaurant and I get a chocolate dessert. It could be tiramisu. It could be, they make, what do you call those little chocolate bites?
Truffles.
Like a little truffle. The lady there makes a chocolate truffle cheesecake. And
now, is this alcohol? Does it have alcohol in it?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, I bought this like 5 years ago and it's like, this much. So quite literally, this is a drink. Both when I would order the chocolate truffle cheesecake and the Frangelico at the restaurant, I would try to bring 2 other people with me because it's so rich and so strong. I think it's too much for one person. And then I love to share, You
mean like how much are you talking about? Like a little, you know what I mean? What?
Oh yeah, like a little shot.
Yeah, you're drizzling it. Okay. You're drizzling it.
So what I'll do is I'll take it, and so I don't have what do you call it, chocolate. So I just have, at home I just have a bar of 92% dark chocolate, and so if I ever want to have a little bit, I'll put like, quite literally get like a half a teaspoon of the liqueur and a chunk of chocolate, and then just chocolate and a little sip. And it's this right. You've had hazelnut, right?
Yeah.
So this is a hazelnut liqueur.
Wow.
So a really savory, really sweet. I guess after dinner, it's hazelnut, other secret ingredients. The monks are keeping their secret, but I think the secret is celibacy.
No, the Coke recipe is the secret.
Just like so. And they do say the best way to serve this is over ice with just a little squeeze of lime. And I don't really
How did you learn about this particular drink?
Again, I would go to, a fancy dessert place and just like, I'm a dessert first kind of person. And so sometimes I would quite literally, I don't know. I always feel like I can cook something better than the restaurant. And so, man, I just lost one of my cameras. This is the laptop camera.
Okay.
So
that's your favorite drink. What about?
No, this is my favorite winter drink.
Oh, okay.
There's another one that's an elderberry liqueur, which is really, really light. That I like an elderberry wine, or a honey mead. So this is a honey mead that's got mead is a wine made with honey. So I shouldn't have to say honey mead, but this particular one is berry flavored, and so it's got they either do strawberry or raspberry, and this one particular one is strawberry, raspberry, and I think blueberry.
So you can pick that up at a liquor store?
This is made by a friend of mine. So, but yeah, mead you can buy.
It's also made by monks.
Like
in other places.
No, my friend who makes that definitely not a monk. He's a wild revelant Irishman. So,
sorry, I'm having a lunch. I'm making belly talk.
And so, let's see. Who wants to talk for a second here? I'll try to fix the camera so you're not seeing my shoulder.
Let me hear some other people's favorites.
I'll share mine.
Okay.
So I also have a drink, and unfortunately, I like it so much I drank almost all of it.
What it is?
What is it? What?
Kombucha. It is.
I like kombucha.
Oh, no, I don't like that.
Yeah. This one was a watermelon, but I really like their pickle. I get it from a local brewery. I don't know if you can. It says Burrow Brewing. Because they serve it to you with the live active, probiotics in it. If you buy it from the store, in order for the bottles not to explode, because the live active probiotics keep farting out that CO2 and it will break glass.
Pasteurize it.
They have to pasteurize it, yeah. So you don't get any probiotics in it, even if it says like a probiotic drink. They mean like it was originally a probiotic drink. So I get it from a local brewery, or now I have a friend who home brews. Love kombucha. It is fizzy and it's just the right kind of fizzy, and it's healthy for you. Don't drink too much because it will give you
If you would like me to teach you how to make it, here's my gallon that I've drank half of it so far.
Howard's computer can't move, but the house we're pet sitting for right now has like a 5-gallon samovar of kombucha brewing in it.
Don't really. The problem is if you actually see it growing, you don't want to. So it's quite literally a fungus who grows in the tea and drinks the tea and then pees it back out.
There, Howard's showing the kombucha brewing here.
Yeah, and then you can take that out and start another batch.
Howard, talk a little bit about it.
Howard's muted. There you go.
Yeah, but sorry, it's really thick. I mean, this is sideways. Like an inch of it. Look at this.
Let's see, Howard, I think you're sideways. How can we see you?
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
It's an inch thick of this stuff.
Exactly. And like you say, you can take that out and start another batch.
And it's actually layers, so you can peel a layer out and give a layer. Now, whatever on the top, it will die if it gets out of the moisture. So, now, if you notice, it has to breathe. So how I do mine, is I have a napkin with a rubber band so it can actually breathe through.
Yeah, it's a cheesecloth.
Cheesecloth works.
You just want to keep it breathing. But in the really hot summer, when I travel a lot, my house gets too hot and it'll kill it. So I tend to only grow mine in the winter. Because, well. Now, Jen, if you buy one that's unpasteurized.
Where I am, we have a local brewery that can give you unpasteurized kombucha. It comes straight from the tap. They get it straight from their brewing vessel. And they put it into a little bottle. And then they're like, hey, it's on you to keep the bottle whole. You got to burp that regularly if you're not drinking it quickly. So as you can see, this is my hand. I have a child-sized hand, and this is the bottle. They're not giving you a massive amount. So, you're probably going to drink this in a single setting. I think this is an 8-ounce bottle. No, 16-ounce bottle, it says on the bottom. And I love a good kombucha. It's just, in the winter I drink hot tea, and in the summer I drink kombucha, and it just
honestly, I think it tastes
just that right way.
Nasty. But I think it tastes horrible. But the feeling of the healthy feeling it gives me, I like it. So I'll mix it with a lot of water and fruit juice if I feel like I need to drink more than a sip of it.
I have a friend whose husband runs a kombucha brewery, and their claim to fame is that they are the first brewery that packages in cans rather than bottles. I think they only distribute regionally at the moment, but the thing that she does for her husband's brewery is she loves good alcohol. And so she has become a craft mixer of kombucha with alcohol to make cute cocktails that are delicious. So she recommends a 1-part Prosecco or champagne, whatever fizzy alcohol that's really light on the palate that you want, and then 1 part really light kombucha. Mix them together in a drinking glass, and it's going to be a very healthy, delicious drink. She also recommends mixing it with white wine as well. She never really mixed it with liquor, I don't think, like no vodkas, no brandies. But that is my favorite dish. Howard has brought in a lot of different kombuchas over the time we've been together, because he's trying to figure out which kombucha I like the best. And the answer is all of them.
What about the blue one?
I don't like the blue one. Howard just screamed out, what about the blue one? I don't like the blue one because it was too healthy. And when it's too healthy, my tonsils get, the probiotics move into my tonsils, and then they move into my intestines, and I feel very yucky and under the weather. Howard's bringing the blue one to show you. It's got spirulina, which my body just doesn't love.
There's a great kombucha with spirulina. It's blue naturally.
I've had that stuff. It looks nasty. It's like a bright blue.
It is neon blue.
Naturally bright blue.
So this is my kombucha I keep in the fridge. And if you look really close, it has oops, you can't really see it. It has a little bit of, but it quits growing in the fridge.
Oh, that's dry.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
I don't know if you can see but there's the
what?
See right there, because this stuff's real. This is not the pasteurized store stuff.
Whereas the pasteurized store stuff, it's still very thick.
But I mean,
that's my favorite food.
People who think it's weird are also people who will eat a yogurt. Yogurt is also.
So many foods are fermented. So many foods are fermented.
I just know that the flavor matters a lot. I've introduced a lot of people to kombucha, and I usually introduce them with a fruity flavor, or in the case of the small children who loved pickles, I introduced them with pickle kombucha because the Kombucha Brewery near me did a whole run where they put cucumbers in along with the tea. And so it came out tasting like just a little bit like a dill pickle. It was delicious.
I'm trying to
when I was in Russia, they have these stands where they sell kvass, K-V-A-S-S, that's made from like rye bread and it's fermented. It's like a cheap drink that they've served there for a long, long time in Russia.
Yeah, we had a house guest recently. We were talking about all the fermented drinks. And we were talking about beer is fermented bread, kvass is fermented bread, kombucha is fermented tea, tepache is fermented pineapple juice. And then there's, rum is fermented fruit.
Every cheese.
Molasses. They make rum from molasses primarily, I think, or that's the origins of it.
So it's interesting how many foods we eat regularly were foods that literally went bad, and then we're like, oh, this is better when it's bad.
Right. Vinegar is fermented wine.
Yeah, and that's why yogurt was so popular, because people couldn't keep fresh milk, but they could keep a yogurt or cheese. Yep. They would turn milk into yogurt or cheese because it was much easier to keep than fresh milk, which wouldn't keep without refrigeration.
And if you, gentle YouTube viewer, after or post this, happen to go back in the archives, you'll see that I taught lacto pickling or lacto fermentation of vegetables.
Yeah, that's right.
Way earlier. So I am clearly a fermentation junkie.
Exactly.
Anyway, my turn is over. I'm looking forward to hearing from somebody else about theirs.
I'll talk about mine. I put it in the chat. It may be a little hard to see it in there, but it's basically the recipe and the instructions. It's not complicated.
Right, before you explain that,
yeah, go ahead.
Barbara, you want to give me a pointer in this? Like, I'll be cooking while we're talking. I was just gonna fry some onions and like do it like Indian style, where you add the spices to the oil.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And then you basically add that and pour that over the eggs.
Or I was thinking over the tomato, in the tomato mixture.
Well, he already has tomato sauce left over from last night.
I messed up because on the bottom of this pot is already the tomato sauce. So
yeah. Well, did you already peel the eggs?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I peeled them before I froze them. So these are eggs I hard boiled in the spring when we had absolutely tons and tons of eggs. Now it's interesting. I'm saying spring, but Lenny is in Brazil. It's spring for her now.
The beginning of spring.
Almost is. Yes, it's spring.
Yeah. So you're just starting spring. We're starting fall.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to, with all those eggs, you make sure that you have a lot of onions and that spice mixture that you're doing, because it has to cover a lot.
Yeah. And so, Laura, in Chile, it's spring also.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a spring.
So, what do you? I would get. I don't know. If I would get confused, but I don't know. I'm planning to in October. I'll be coming from the cooking show in Brazil. So.
Oh wow!
I'm going
That's
for.
Great.
Yep. So what'll that be this year from 4 countries? I'll call in from.
So what's the main purpose of going to Brazil?
A friend's wedding.
Oh, nice. Oh, will be wonderful.
I always go to places not for the place, but for the people. When I travel. Neat. So, all right, Fred. Sorry. I was like pata putanesca. No, pasta putanesca.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. So one of my favorites is pasta putanesca, and it's kind of a myth sort of behind the name of it. And the
that's
story,
the only reason why Fred likes it, right?
Yeah. And the story goes that in Naples, the prostitutes, knowing that the sailors were arriving from long voyages at sea, would cook this dish, and it was kind of spicy. And the idea was that the sailors, of course, they've been on these ships eating what's called hardtack, which is terrible kind of food. And they were looking to have a good meal. And the prostitutes would cook this dish. And of course, the sailors could smell the dish and they would show up and then, you know, have a few glasses of wine and then partake of the other services that were offered there. So that's kind of
basically the company of nice people, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of that.
What does putanesca mean in Italian?
Well, puta in the Romance languages quite often means whore. So that's kind of how it gets that name, I think.
Okay.
So
anyway,
but do you think it has the name because of the prostitutes or the fact that it's a very poignant smelling dish?
Yeah, I think the name came first, and because it sounds like a name that people are familiar with, then they probably made up the story. I don't know. I don't know the whole history. Okay. But the reason it's popular, and it was popular, because think about times before people had refrigeration and stuff like that, that most of the ingredients were readily available. So basically, and I put all the ingredients and stuff in the chat, so I don't.
Can you mention?
Well, like for instance, capers is not a usual.
Oh, it is in Italy. They grow capers in Italy.
Fred, read the ingredient list.
Yeah, and they're pickled. They're pickled, so they last a long time. Doesn't require refrigeration to keep.
Yeah,
capers.
because Fred came up with this recipe, I now keep all these ingredients in my kitchen because you know it's not really much fresh stuff.
Right. It's a standby when the cook doesn't show up. If chef doesn't show up, he's got that as one of his standby recipe. So basically it's olive oil, garlic, peeled tomatoes, Kalamata olives, anchovies, and capers with a little oregano, dried crushed red pepper, and over spaghetti. And then it could be, you can have parsley on, you know, serve it with parsley and Parmesan cheese.
I didn't catch you mentioning capers. You said capers.
Yeah. No, I said capers. So
okay.
It's really easy. You just first you get your pot of water on the stove boiling, because by the time most spaghetti's like 9 minutes to cook. Plus you got a little bit of time because it takes a while for the water to cook. So start that water for your spaghetti and then start the other ingredients, because if you're fast, it'll only take a few minutes to fix it. So basically you take the garlic and saute it, you know, for about a minute. Then you add the tomatoes, the olives, which you chop up the olives, the anchovies, the capers, the oregano, and the red pepper, and you simmer it until it gets thick, and you can break the tomatoes up with a spoon, kind of break them up.
And do you ever just use tomato paste or?
No, I use canned tomatoes. I don't use marinara. So this is, yeah, that's a good point. Don't expect this to be spaghetti marinara. It's not. This isn't spaghetti marinara. This dish gets all of its flavor from these other ingredients, not from the tomatoes. The tomatoes just kind of a vehicle. There's no tomato.
So you could literally have like really, really cheap tomato sauce in a can and it doesn't matter.
It's not even tomato sauce. It's crushed tomatoes or diced tomatoes, including the juice that's with them. It's not tomato sauce. Okay. Tomato sauce is tomatoes that have been cooked into a sauce. This is not, that's why I say it's not marinara. Don't get, you know, we all know what those brands are. You get it off the shelf and you make spaghetti with it. That's not what this is. So don't expect it to be floating in a tomato sauce, because it's not. So you put all the ingredients together and you just simmer them until they start to thicken up a little bit. And by the time your pasta's ready, what I do is I drain the pasta and then I pour the sauce right into the pan where the pasta is and stir it all up, and it's ready to go.
When you strain it, do you then run it under cold water, or it doesn't matter to do that?
Doesn't matter. No, I don't do that. I like
when we have less steps.
Yeah, I only do that when you're doing like rice noodles and things that'll continue to cook that are more delicate. But this is just spaghetti. I actually have done it in my Instapot, and the only thing I would say is next time I'd use you know, macaroni or penne or something like that, because the pasta works a little better in the Instapot. But you can make this in the Instapot if you wanted. It's probably faster on the stove because it doesn't take very long. So
I have a question.
Really?
Yeah.
As always, I have a question. Did you say you put onion in it?
No.
Huh.
It doesn't call for onion, but if you like onion, you can put onion in it.
Okay.
It's garlic, but no onion. It doesn't call for onion, but it's up to you. If you like onion, or sometimes I put onion, sometimes I put mushrooms, because I always have sauteed mushrooms in my fridge. So quite often I throw, you know, you can't go wrong.
Are you like me? When you get all the mushrooms, you'll like saute them with some garlic or onions or just in oil and just put them in the fridge, and then they stay good for like.
Exactly, because mushrooms don't last if you don't cook them. So I cook up my mushrooms, I saute them, then I put them in a container and put them in the fridge.
An interesting note about mushrooms, though, I have this, one of my favorite books is The Joy of Cooking. I read it just for fun. And their recipes for mushroom soup is don't use fresh mushrooms. Right when they're slimy and about to turn is when they have the most flavor. And so I never store mine in the plastic or in the container. I always put them in paper bags, and they go from being kind of icky, ugly, slimy, and then they dehydrate in my fridge. So I haven't thrown a mushroom away in forever.
Well, I don't throw them away because I pre-cook them, I saute them, yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that they had the mushroom soup flavor is best with old mushrooms, not
yeah, and again, we talk about before people had refrigeration, they would keep mushrooms, you know, in the cellar or wherever, and for long times, and they would, you know, shrink up and dry up and stuff, and they would reconstitute them. So it's same idea.
Speaking of tricks, if you need to caramelize a lot of onions, like this is 4 onions, regular yellow onions aren't very sweet, so I put 2 tablespoons of sugar in there to caramelize them about 10 minutes faster.
Good idea.
Like,
anyway, that's it. Pasta putanesca.
Lulu, you were late. You missed my favorite drink.
Oh, I'm sorry. I actually overslept.
Right. So my
favorite
drink.
It was 1 o'clock. I was like, oh no.
So what's your favorite drink?
Oh, the bourbon smash. I was so quick on that one.
Is that why you overslept? You don't have to tell us. We're recording if you don't want to tell us.
No. I was binge watching a TV show until 5 in the morning, which is
really my God.
I know.
Somehow I kept my mom out at past midnight last night. We didn't realize it until we got in the car. Both of us this was the best part of this outdoor party. We both put our phones and left them in the car. You're just like, and you know, you're not distracted by technology. So.
Well, Lulu, what show did you watch?
It's a brand new show to me. My sister recommended called Eli Stone. And it was on Hulu, and it's about this guy. Well, I hate to say anything in case you watch it. I mean, everything's revealed in the first episode, but
so, Lulu, what is another something you would like to share with us that's your favorite or you bring to a potluck regularly? Actually, can I tell the story how I first met you?
Sure.
So we live, I don't know, just over 2 hours apart.
Yeah.
And it was my birthday, and I decided I was going to take a whole group of people to St. Louis. And there was a meetup at Lulu's house. We were all going to go salsa dancing, but I looked it up, and I actually messaged Lulu and said, "Is it all right if I bring a van load of people to your house?" And I'm glad I messaged, because we doubled the size of her potluck at her house. Just like,
and it wasn't a meetup, it was couch surfing.
And it became a tradition that like every year on my birthday, we'd get a van load of people, go to Lulu's monthly potluck, and then go salsa dancing afterwards.
No, what the strangest thing was is it's a monthly for couch surfing, but I happened to do it in January a few years in a row. That was the weirdest thing because
so it's a monthly, a different person does it each month.
Used to do it each month, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And I did it for some reason, I don't know why, you know, and it's whoever wanted to volunteer to do it, you know. And it just happened that January was it, right around your birthday. It's called the Second Sunday Potluck. And people could come who were locals, who were hosting couch surfers, or couch surfers who just saw it, you know, on the website, would come without their hosts, because, you know, everybody's active differently, or were in couch surfing. I mean, now it seems like nobody's much doing it. But
what was a favorite you would like make regularly for a potluck?
So back in the day, before I learned to cook, you're going to think this is funny. I always just used to do a relish tray, you know, like carrots and celery in a dip. And, you know, that's all I would ever bring.
Now, did you do that because you wanted stuff to go home? Because that thing never gets all eaten.
Well, first, I like it. I like that. I know there'll be something I like to eat. Everybody seems to eat it, in my opinion. I mean, at least, and these potlucks I go to a lot, there's a lot of people who don't eat meat, or that was a requirement of a potluck was, you know, there's, you know, no meat, because I used to belong to different groups, and I didn't know how to cook, and I didn't realize there was a whole world out there of meatless dishes, you know, and so that was my original go-to, was just a relish tray. And plus it always had a lot of, I love
olives. When you say relish tray, you're not talking just a veggie tray?
Yeah, a veggie tray, but mine would have like black and green olives and pickles, and I would stuff celery with either, you know, peanut butter.
What do you call that now, Fred? Charcuterie. There we go.
Yeah, but doesn't
here in the Midwest we call it a charcuterie tray. Because most people can't say.
Charcuterie usually involves processed meats.
Yeah, there was no meat and there was no cheese. This was just like, you know, and there was cauliflower and broccoli and.
Okay, I've seen one, they called it a charcuterie and it was only fruits on it, cut up fruits. So I don't know, maybe it's evolved. But
yeah, I wasn't even that creative back then. I never even thought to put fruit on it. That would
wait a second, you didn't buy it? You actually just made the whole tray?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Way back when, it wasn't like you walked in and somebody did all that for you. I mean, that is kind of a relatively new, for you youngins, that's kind of a relatively new thing that you can go in and buy a little jar of, you know, whatever, you know, or fresh in the produce, cut up everything. No, I'm talking like long ago when my 35-year-old daughter was 5. You know, we're talking about long ago. I'm old, you guys.
Charcuterie is a French term, and it's about meat.
Yeah.
So, in the strictest sense of the word, it's all meat. It's all meat, as opposed to everything else.
All the little, Italian deli slice stuff.
Exactly. It's only meat, basically.
I actually. Probably one of my first, catering. A friend of mine was defending their thesis and they have an after thesis party. And I made a veggie tray, but instead of just, putting all the veggies around with the dip in the center, I baked the croissant crust and then I spread it with the dip, and then all the veggies finely chopped, I put on top of it. And so you could just grab a piece of croissant with all the veggies and the dip right on it as and because I don't know how often I would go to an event and someone would buy or bring a big veggie tray and only like half of the veggies would get eaten. And so I either read or came across it. All I know is that got eaten because people could pick up, a bite-size croissant crust with the dip and then all the little veggies on it. And, now I think if I made it really fancy, you could choose to build your own. So you could choose what veggies you put on your own. That'd be the only difference. So, but I don't know if you can see how fast this is caramelizing, putting the, it's already all mostly brown by putting that sugar in there. I love caramelized onions. And when I found this trick, I was like, man, saved 10 minutes out of my day.
Have you ever made blackened garlic?
How do you make that?
It's the simplest thing. It's whole garlic cloves, obviously peeled, you know, and just put them in a pan or in a, I do it in a low pot, cover them in olive oil and just let it go.
I mean, that's just roasted garlic, no? I mean,
but it's more like it's boiled in olive oil.
Oh, okay.
Or lightly simmered, but it takes, you know, 45 minutes or so. And you got to, you know, keep turning it, you know, and keep it at a right temperature. But that olive oil that results, and then the garlic that's in there, it's so versatile. I mean, and it's decadent. It's delicious. I mean, if you want to fry an egg and just use a little oil, you don't even have to use any of the garlic that's floating in there. And then the garlic you can use for other things, like put it on toast or add it to any kind of dish you're making. It's decadent. It's quite it's kind of like caramelizing, but it gets really, it doesn't never turn black because you never want to burn garlic. It's this really rich golden, almost brown color.
Okay, so I mean, when you said black, I was imagining it being black. It sounds like basically, you know, roasted garlic.
Yeah, but it's in olive oil on the stovetop. It's not in a hot oven.
Do you chop the garlic or whole?
No, you leave it whole and you keep turning them and they start, you know, getting brown on either. You got to kind of watch it. You don't have it on very high heat. You just see that it's and there's submerged garlic because you're going for the oil, in my opinion. I'm going for the flavor of the oil as much as I am the decadent little pieces of garlic that end up that you have. And I just keep it in the fridge and I pull it out and use it for, you can chop that garlic up and throw it on a fresh salad cold. I mean, it just adds such a great flavor to anything that you like. And it's not like that raw, overpowering garlic. It's that real sweet, yummy flavor garlic. And it's quite fun to make. You can just, you know, put it on, but I mean, it takes time, like with the caramelized onions. It's just sometimes this stuff just takes time. You can't, it's not always best like crank it on high and, you know, it's gotta do its thing.
Oh my goodness. Suzanne. Yeah. Suzanne always makes me jealous. Is it all right if I spot you like you're like baking something?
Sure, I'm making pasta.
Oh, well,
fun.
Just like making pasta.
Oh, I love this.
Just like I took a pasta making class once and it took like 4 hours.
Well, I'm at that point where it's starting to get softer. So, and this is just semolina and water. It's like 300 grams of semolina and 175 grams of water, warm water. And what the semolina is really good for making your shaped pastas.
Yeah, the cooking class I did, there was like, we made like 6 different ones. My favorite was the one where you just got a fork. Well, you rolled them into long, thin, not really thin, but like pencil size, long things. And then you cut them into, I don't know, about inch long pieces. And then you got a fork and you gently rolled on the fork and it made like this spiral noodle.
Nice.
And it just really held a lot of sauce. It was a thick, you know, like spiral noodle. And it just, I liked it because it held a lot of sauce. It just had.
Well, and there's so many different types of shapes to make. And I'm going to use my sushi mat to make cavatelli.
Is that the shell? Cavatelli is the.
No, it's yeah, it is. That has the ridges on the outside, on the top.
Yeah, it's good golden sauce.
Yeah, and then there's Oreo, which is like the little ears, and you make like just a little small amount. You know, like Or said, you make a tube, then you chop it, or a roll and chop it up. And then you take either your thumb or a butter knife and squish it, hold one side, squish it, and it makes like just a little round thing, a round disc. And then you push through one side to make it look like a little hat.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
So
well, maybe when you get to the point, you could just do all the, just have like all these little fancy ones. You could show us how to make it.
Now, Suzanne inspires me regularly because I feel like I can cook, but cook as, people who are regulars here, I think cook is just like this mad artistry. You can be like creative and wild, and then baking is more this precise science. And I get frustrated with the precise science and mess it up regularly. Now, Suzanne, do you like the bread because you get to beat it up? It looks like you're really like getting your workout there.
Yes, it's fun.
Like a meditation.
And
meditation.
And I haven't made pasta in a while because it's been so hot out. To do this, I would die in the heat. Yeah. So, and especially like making bread. Now I'll start baking bread again.
Because that looks like that looks like therapy and anger management all rolled into one.
Yes, exactly. Or it makes you think. So you're like, let's see, okay, what should I do next? Or what? Who knows? Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, I like cooking. For me, it's meditation. It's not really, for me, it's because I have to focus, and therefore I can't allow the problems in my life to get in my way. Because if I'm not focusing, I'm burning myself, I'm cutting, I'm doing something wrong. Yeah. But at the same time, so that's my frontal lobe's occupied, but my back brain is, working through problems and, is relaxed and just, I don't know, in a meditative state and solving things. And so usually actually after I cook, some problem that has been vexing me tends to either not disappear but become less of a problem, or my back brain solved it. I don't know.
Nice.
So
I'm getting into a meditative state just watching her do that.
So
we need a video of you just on a loop that we can just watch it with some meditative music.
Right. What I like about it is with semolina, it's really grainy at first, and you're mixing it together, going, "What the heck is this? It's horrible." But as 10 minutes later, you've got something that's a lot more pliable and easy to work with. But you have to just keep working at it and working at it.
Wait, does that have something to do with developing the gluten?
Yep. It is all about developing the gluten.
I know what you just said. I don't know if you're talking about the dough or life's problems. If you just work at it, it kind of develops.
Both.
That's just a beautiful surface you're working on too. When you stepped away, the reflection of your cat that's on the refrigerator was on that real shiny black surface. I'm looking at, I'm seeing two cats. I'm like, what is going on?
That's funny. Well, someday I'll actually have fewer things in the kitchen. Because right now it's
never.
Oh, I love your kitchen.
So, Barbara, do you want to give me some pointers on what spices you think I should put on these eggs?
I missed what you're making. Just tell me the name of the dish.
I don't know. I have a zillion hard-boiled eggs. See?
Yeah.
That I hard-boiled in the spring when we had an over excess from the farmers where I could get them really cheap and dozens and dozens. And then I peeled them and I honestly forgot them in the deep freeze.
Okay.
Usually I use the hard-boiled eggs within a month and make egg salad. Egg salad is my summer go-to bring to potluck dish. And I was planning to do that today. But when I took it out, because it's been so many months, they're pretty chewy now.
Okay.
And so then I have to boil them again to make them. And I was like, if I'm going to boil them, I might as well boil them in a sauce. And I had this African dish that I just absolutely loved, that all it was a tomato curry over hard-boiled eggs or with hard-boiled eggs. And so I'm trying to pick Barbara's brain because she spent so much time in Africa. Maybe help me with the spices for this. But I don't know.
Didn't Barbara cook that one time?
No, I did an African dish, but not, I mean, in Nigeria anyhow, they use a lot of thyme and ginger.
Okay.
And onion, and well, they use habanero peppers.
Okay, above my stove, I've got this big bag. Look at these of thyme drying.
Wow.
So I got a big batch. It's like a full paper bag full of thyme.
Nice.
Do you think I just put the full leaves, or do I need to grind it up again?
I think that the leaves would be nice.
Yeah. It seems like so.
You can throw a couple stems in, and when you come across it, you could use them as toothpicks.
Actually, my favorite toothpick comes from Africa. It's like this certain twig from a certain tree.
Oh, that's brilliant. And it has a flavor to it or something?
Yeah, I forgot. Now I need to remember what it is. Oh, man. So
good.
you can buy, it's the particular tree is actually like antiseptic. And so they started putting that in all naturals. But I had a friend who actually just basically got the twigs and would sell a little bag of short twigs about 2 inches long. I'll have to look up what they're called.
That's brilliant.
But, her husband's from Africa. She lives in California. And so they would once a year go to Africa and, you know, basically come back with a suitcase of twigs from
it's Miss Wack
grandma's tree.
My friend gave me one also.
Yeah, and it's like you chew on it.
Yep, and clean your teeth.
You can buy it in my local health food store as a gum. They put that flavor in the gum, and it's naturally. But yeah, I mean, you chew on the stick enough that the tip of the stick has like soft bristles, and then you can actually brush your teeth with it.
Sounds like a licorice stick.
What's it called?
Well, I would call it a licorice stick. Not black licorice, like
like
sweet,
licorice, yeah.
But a natural licorice stick. And in Scotland, you would buy it at the chemist, and we used to buy it because it lasted you longer than like candy or, you know, chocolate or whatever. But that's what it sounds like, and you chew on it, and it just gets like like you're saying, all bristly at the end, but it has a kind of licorice flavor. Try Amazon. A natural licorice stick or something, and you might get it there.
That sounds wonderful.
Or it could be something totally different. I don't know. But that's what it sounds like.
Neat.
Well, when I lived in Nigeria or in Ghana, this was a very natural thing. You see people chewing the stick all the time.
Yeah.
I'd say, and it was a large amount of the population that did it. It wasn't like, you know, unusual to see. It was so common. And they did not use a toothbrush and toothpaste. They used that instead.
I mean, you think in southern the U.S., a lot of people chew on sticks like naturally, and I always wondered about that. And then I realized that people would do the same thing. They would chew on it until they got it kind of frizzy at the tip, and then they could use that to brush their teeth.
It kind of like little bristles.
People were too poor, you know, so it became kind of a tradition of you create your own toothbrush, right? So
the most annoying thing about, like, if ever I'm using a wood toothpick is I'm trying to get something out and a piece of the toothpick breaks off, and now that's stuck in my tooth.
Yeah, it's just like so. All right, does everybody feel like they shared their favorite? I don't know.
No.
Suzanne really didn't.
Some people haven't spoken.
All right, go for it.
Present and correct.
Not me, I already shared mine.
Or me.
Your favorite is Scotch eggs, isn't it?
No, that's your favorite that you want me to make.
Just like we got into the argument because we're gonna make.
Let me go now. Let me do it now because I'm
Go
going
for
to
it.
eat these. In Scotland, a potluck is nothing, you know. I arrived here and Tom was like, oh, we're having what the hell's a potluck? I don't know what that is.
So you don't have meals where people get together and share food?
No, the person, if I'm inviting everybody to my house, I make the food. Put it out.
So if everybody comes to your house, you cook all the food and prepare it.
Absolutely.
So you don't bring anything when you are a guest?
Well,
like
I would bring a bottle of wine or something.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because I was always taught not to go empty-handed. So you'd take biscuits or, you know, you'd make a little thing. But the main thing was the host or the hostess. But anyway, when I came here, I learned the rules of potluck. And
there's rules?
Had to work on what the heck am I going to make? And folk kept saying, can you bring something Scottish? So this is as Scottish as I could get, right? Because it's really simple.
Oh, those are good. I don't know what they're called.
They're called sausage rolls.
Oh, wow, that's simple. Okay.
I don't know. And I only recently, like yesterday, found a recipe and they're called something totally different. But I have never seen sausage rolls. You know, you get them with a pizza stuff inside or, you know, different cheese and onion maybe, but not sausage. So you basically get puff pastry. That one's a bit bent. Make party size or grady size. So you roll out your puff pastry, put a line of sausage down the middle, like a long strip, roll it over and cut them into whatever size you want and shove them in the oven, 15 minutes, and you're ready to go or eat.
But what kind of sausage do you use?
Well, I've tried lots of different sausage. These are Italian mild, you know, just without the skin, the kind of, I don't know what you call it, the block stuff. That's what these are. I've tried them with a breakfast sausage. They're okay, but they're a bit greasy. And I've also tried like ground beef and pork, ground pork mixed together. Tried ground pork on its own. Oh, sorry about that. Tried ground pork on its own, but it was too fatty. And if it's too fatty alongside the puff pastry, it doesn't taste very good. So you're trying to, you know, get a balance there. But yeah, and then people can just eat them.
Oh, they look good to me.
Hot or cold. No. And UK, you can buy them frozen. You know, they're ready. And you just buy a bag, like 100 or 50 little ones, put them in the oven and present them to your guests. And they say, oh, have you been baking? And you say, yes, I made them myself. But you do. I mean, if you're a pastry
you dip
maker,
them in any kind of sauce or anything?
You can. People like them with like a pickle, not a pickle as you know it, like Branson pickle. I don't know if you know.
Like Indian pickle. Like Indian pickle.
Like a brown
like
pickle.
like a chutney.
Or mustardy type sauce or something.
Here's a Branson pickle.
Well, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
What is it? What is it?
That's Branson pickle.
Branston.
It's like apples, gherkins, onions. What else? Read the ingredients.
So it's more like an Indian
like an
chutney
A1
almost.
sauce or something.
Vinegar and brown sauce type thing. Absolutely beautiful. Have that with cheese on your cheese board and it will disappear. You'll have some on a sausage roll. So,
Allie, what did you call the size that was a little bigger? Did you call it the greedy?
The greedy size.
I love that.
Party
size and the greedy size.
Party size or greedy size. Because my sons always say when I made them, you know, at home, well, that home, say, oh, Mom, can you make greedy size for us? Because we don't like those little party things. They just put the whole thing in their mouth and it's gone in one bite. So I'd have to make the bigger ones. And if you go to the bakers in Scotland, the bakers in Scotland shop is a bit like, everybody loves cakes and bread and pies and sausage rolls. So people buy these, you get it in a paper bag and they eat them going along the street. If you look at Greg's the Bakers, they make the most lovely pastries like this, savoury. And you could just live on them, get fatter and fatter like me.
I love sausage rolls. I go to England. Whenever I'm in England, I eat sausage rolls and I love them.
So the big ones or the greedy ones are the small ones, the diet ones?
Well, not really, because it's quite fatty anyway. So, but that's party size.
But that's the thing, is if they're really small, you think, oh, I can eat plenty of these. It's no problem.
10. Yeah, but those are the most common. The small ones are the most common than the big ones.
My favorite in the UK were pasties.
Yeah,
I love those pies.
I really like them.
Yeah, those are really good.
Would that be like a Cornish pasty?
Oh, Cornish, oh yeah.
Cornish pasty, yeah. Somebody was talking the other day on another show.
Cornish pasty would be like a short crust pastry. It's not a puff, this is a flaky pastry. They would be a short crust pastry.
Like shortbread, yeah.
Meat and potatoes in it, because that's what the guys used to take when they were working in the Cornish mines. So it was like, that was their whole lunch, was wrapped in this.
But they're big. They're big. And you know, every time I went into London,
and they are huge, you know,
there was a shop there. Then they did those pasties. Oh my God, I went straight there.
That's the whole lunch, isn't it? The whole lunch.
So good. But they're expensive. They're not cheap. They're, I don't know, around $8 or $9 for one.
Now they're expensive, yeah.
But if that's your full meal, that's a good deal.
Yeah,
if you make them, you know, it's whatever you want.
So it's basically like a hand pie, but a savory
it's like a little
pie.
meat. Yeah. It's kind of like a savory meat pie, more or less.
So we got distracted by
the dough. The flour has to be flaky, so you have to use plenty of fat when you're making the dough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when I lived in Nigeria, I had a bakery for about 3-4 years. Wow. And mostly I specialized in wedding cakes. And then also I did all the little things that you do, like, for instance, they might have a big wedding at City Hall. There might be 1,000 people. Well, 1,000 people you have to feed them. So I have these little boxes, and I would put Queen's cake, which is a small little, a buttery cake.
For 1,000 people?
Sausage rolls would go in there, little ones, you know what I mean? And what else do we do? Well, they have something called chin chin there, and it's like a pastry that is fried real quick, and it's real crunchy and small, but it's just a little snack. And what else did I have in there? But I did make the egg thing you were talking about, the sauce. What'd you call it?
These sausage rolls.
No, you're talking about the curry with the hard-boiled egg.
No, you have the whole egg, and then you have the
Scotch egg.
Scotch, thank you. But sausage was a little bit too big for those boxes, so I didn't do that. And plus, it's a little harder to make Scotch egg, because you really have to form that sausage around the egg.
Yeah, and then if you're making hundreds of them, but if you're only making like a pound of meat, whatever meat you're putting around the eggs, a pound of meat will do 6 eggs, a half dozen eggs.
Okay, so it takes a lot of meat, yeah.
It doesn't take long though. You don't want too much meat, because then it's hard to cook it all the way through.
Yeah.
And your guests will bite it and be raw in the middle.
And then I think I would bake it. Don't you bake yours?
It's so much better deep fried. What are you talking about? No.
No. Sometimes it's not. Yeah. I now do the air fryer. I used to do the oven. I used to put them in the oven.
Oh yeah, air fryer.
But air fry, and they're beautiful, because any fat that's in them is draining away.
Yeah.
In the egg.
So, yeah.
Does that taste
I will make you some, or I promise I will make you some.
Well, I was gonna ask Suzanne what her favorite potluck food was,
Scotch eggs,
but we got distracted by her making pasta.
Yeah.
So Suzanne, would you like to tell us, do you have a go-to that you bring to a potluck, or do you just do the usual grab whatever's in the garden, whatever's in the fridge, and throw something together?
Bye, Laura. So the one thing that I was reminded of, though, is when I go to England, I love pork pies. Those are my absolute
me too.
favorite.
I love pork pies. Oh yeah.
I even bought a bowl so I can attempt to make one. Pardon?
Do you make your own pork pie?
I'm going to try. but I have not yet. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, I've got one of the forms.
You're brave.
The thing is the meat's just not the same.
Wow.
So, and that's the same with the sausage rolls. The flavor of the meat here in the U.S.
I told you I have tried so many different combinations, and I don't know if you know the Scottish thing about sausage. They have a square slice sausage, they call it, a Lorne sausage, and you can't buy it here at all. So there's like loads of recipes online. So I've tried almost all of them as well. I think I've got it now. I like more beef than pork. You've got to kind of mix it all together, freeze it, and then slice it up and fry it.
Well, so are you using any other spices in there today? Because sometimes it can be kind of bland.
Yeah.
So are you using any spices in your mixture?
And if I could find somewhere, or maybe you can help me here, if I could find somewhere that you can get blood, I would make black pudding.
What?
Blood, make black pudding.
Blood sausage.
I know in Scotland you guys like that blood stuff, blood sausages and all that.
It's like people talk about haggis. Yeah, people talk about haggis and they go, "Oh no, haggis is mainly oatmeal."
Yeah,
it's like a bowl of oatmeal with spices in it. That's what a haggis is. You know.
So Suzanne, I just got given this device. It's. I was like.
Maker.
And it was like,
okay.
Makes a dumpling.
I was just like, every time I've seen someone make like a pie or a dumpling, they just squeeze the edges. I don't know. This right here looks like a trap where you put it in there and then you do it and it makes
it would work.
Perfectly done, like, you know, little dumpling edges. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was just like, so next time I'll show. I made all these dumplings hand. It's cool. All right.
Okay. So lovely little crimped edges.
So Suzanne, when she goes to a potluck, goes to her
garden.
So garden.
Well, my garden's very sad right now. It's just the end of the season, so you can see my rhubarb is not as big anymore. But so I went to a potluck last night, and what I brought was a watermelon salad with feta cheese in it.
Oh, I went to a potluck last night that they had that. And I've made it myself, but I've never had it at potluck. It was literally watermelon, basil, and feta cheese, and that was it. And it was like phenomenal.
Mine has mint instead of basil.
Oh, even better.
Oh yeah. This is fennel, and I just started to harvest it. Of course, here's my sage. It's all big. And yeah, so it's very sad because we had a drought.
I remember when your garden was coming out in the spring and how euphoric you were that, hey, it's spring.
Here are the beans. So they're all dried out. Just going to wait for them to keep drying out.
Now it's harvest time.
Yeah. Here's my Malabar spinach. This guy's doing great. He loves the heat. He gets better and more flavorful.
I never really liked that. I felt like it was too slimy.
Oh, really? I just cook it in with other stuff. Oh, look.
Like it's like a spinach from India, right?
Somewhere, yeah. So little cherry tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
These tall guys are in fact, they'll eventually flower on the top. This is Jerusalem artichoke, which is also
it's the root.
Sunchoke.
So it's a root you eat.
It's a root. Yep, exactly. And then here's I've got some tomatoes still on this little guy. He's been really good producer. My strawberries, everything's just so sad.
At the potluck last night, someone brought, so it was a tomato themed potluck. And so the watermelon with feta cheese and basil, everybody thought was tomatoes. And when they had the watermelon, it surprised them. And then the other one was an orange watermelon, and everybody thought it was orange tomatoes. And they did what you talked about. They put mint with it.
Oh,
like,
hello.
God.
You gotta help her.
That's Lucy. Look at this little guy.
Yeah.
Isn't that pretty?
Beautiful.
It's a tomato or a squash?
It's a squash. Hi. And here's my next door neighbor. Bruce is over here making burgers. Oh, thank you.
That's what you call a proper neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're using Ruben's grill.
This little Boston Terrier looks like.
Yeah, he's just a little sweetie. And then you can see my whatchamacallits, my beans are a little sad.
Well, what happened? You didn't water them or what?
Oh, it just got super dry. I watered them to a certain point, but then
But now it's the end of the season where it's already got the beans.
And it was my first time trying them. And,
right?
and these guys here are potatoes. So
yeah, I mean, I grew up not really liking potatoes until I had fresh ones. I was the same, like beets. I always had the canned beets. And then potatoes, it was always like these really old, sad potatoes you get from the store until I had some fresh potatoes. One time we had a lady from Peru on this show, and she said there's like 3,000 types of potatoes in Peru, and she had these little purple potatoes. Oh my God, the flavor.
Mm-hmm. Here's a delicata squash.
Oh, delicata.
Yeah. Now, okay, this is why the cat's over here. I've got the turkey burgers.
Oh, I thought it was catnip. Maybe you were growing catnip.
Oh, and then let me show you this.
I'd like to supervise you and make sure you're doing things properly.
And here are a whole bunch of lovely peppers.
Oh, nice. Serrano. Like Serrano.
I've got these ones are Serranos, and then these ones here are Ethiopian browns.
Wow.
And then this little guy, I think it's Gypsy.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I did some Japanese shishito this year, and they came out pretty good.
What are those?
Japanese shishito peppers.
Okay.
They're really nice. You can just take them and you fry them up. You kind of saute them in a pan with a little olive oil and salt, and they're kind of like, you eat them sort of like an hors d'oeuvre snack.
Did Howard say what he likes to bring to a potluck? I heard it was something canned.
Ha I haven't been to a potluck in a very, very long time. I don't know.
What did you bring to our potluck today? So you brought the neon blue kombucha.
Exactly. But when Jen and I get married, we'd like to do a potluck for the wedding. I don't understand why it has to be anything fancy. Everyone just bring your own stuff.
I think Barbara is going to bake the cake. If we can fly her the cake.
The birthday cake expert.
Who's got the wedding cakes?
Wedding cake.
Fancy, just a bunch of cupcakes. That's fine.
So, thank you.
Well, Howard, this is your anniversary. Howard, this is your chance to tell us how to make a blah, what was the word?
Blah, blah. That's not how you say it.
Dumplings.
Oh no, my mom never let me make.
Well, you don't have to make them. Just tell us about it. Pretend like you're making them.
So you go to the store and you buy the frozen ones and you steam them.
There you go. That's how I make dumplings.
That's how you make dumplings. I want to thank everybody for coming to the second anniversary of us cooking online. For some reason,
Suzanne's coming back.
My camera keeps turning off. It doesn't want you guys to see my sincere face. Thanking everybody for making me sane the last couple of years as I cook. I've been cooking. So my challenge always has been to making food look pretty, to making small quantities of food.
And to be.
You know, I have no problem cooking tons and tons of food and feeding tons of people. And so this couple years has really challenged me to cook the small quantities of food. And then I still am feeding people because I have a fridge on my front porch where I make individual packaged meals and put it out there and then post on on social media, and people come and pick it up. So it's
Can you give us an update on your restaurant?
And then I have like 4 years a dream of having my own kitchen. That's my new project.
It's more about catering, isn't it?
Well, no, I am doing a shared use kitchen. So, you know, people like who have other businesses can come and use the kitchen also. And then the goal is to basically have the expenses covered by the people who rent it. So my charity cooking is free, you know, it's just, or, you know, lower cost that I'm not having to pay for everything. So, but I don't know. I did this dinner on Friday where I cooked 130, 116 meals went out. I cooked for 130 and they were thanking me for doing it. And I was just like, no, thank you. Because it fills my heart.
But you know, it's a heck of a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, it was 6
it's
hours.
a heck of a lot of work, boy.
Yeah, no, I woke up the next day and I felt like I actually did a, not a marathon, but maybe a 5K because, you know, I don't really run. So, all right.
Well, I want to thank you also for being such a good spirit about everything and bringing people together and all that. So thank you so much.
And I love this because, you know, this online thing has really freed us up to go all over the world, you know. I'm going to visit Lenny in Brazil, you know, and I met her through this cooking show. So she's going to take me around. My favorite Brazilian food is pão de queijo. And it comes from, it was invented in her, like, you know, the specialty is in her home. Look at that. She's taking some out of the oven.
Oh my gosh.
Lenny, you're muted.
Oh, wow.
If you could unmute yourself.
Today we are gonna bake pão de queijo because it's traditional one.
That's
my husband
we had her
loves
camera
it.
off and I mentioned it. She's like taking it out of the oven.
Good timing.
Just like, you know, and for me, I like it because it's gluten-free. You know, it's, you know, based, they don't have wheat or in that area. So they cook with other ingredients.
So what is it?
Lenny, you want to say what pão de queijo is?
Yes, pão de queijo is a kind of a bread with cheese and flour. How can I say the name? I forgot. Or
cassava.
Yes, cassava flour.
Oh, okay. Cassava and cheese. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And so it's a small, you know, so cassava is very glutinous. It's very stretchy. And so it's like a little ball that you bake. It's hard on the outside and chewy on the inside and has the flavor of cheese.
Wow.
And what about, did they use any baking powder or baking soda or anything like that in it to make it rise?
Just like,
no.
Did we make it one time?
We did.
I think so.
But
she made a healthy version where she added, she used olive oil and less cheese, and instead of butter, she used olive oil, and then added, what was it, some carrots, and if you look back in the archives, and you know, because she's where they invented it. You know, it wasn't even a fusion version. It was from the same place, right?
Wow.
So. But my husband liked the traditional one, and then I need to bake it every afternoon for lunch, for breakfast.
Yeah, so you eat that for breakfast every morning.
Yes, every morning, and afternoon also for
like
snack.
Tea?
Yeah, you have a snack afternoon, and he likes to eat pão de queijo.
If I remember right, you would make it once a week, and then you would freeze the balls, and so they're ready to just pop in the oven when you're ready to make. They're always made fresh. The baking is fresh, but the balls are frozen.
But you can also buy at supermarket pão de queijo. Traditional one. If you want it, let me show you. This brand is the best one here, called Forno de Minas. I think this one is the best one for me. Forno de Minas. And then you can freeze it, and you can have it what time you want.
Oh, that is so nice.
Yeah, it's delicious.
And so like in the US, you go and they have like the little case where you have all the little, like the rolly hot dogs and the weird stuff. In Brazil, every gas station had a little deli counter where you could get a fresh, hot one of these.
Oh.
You know? Yeah, it was just like any gas station.
In some places you can buy it with full. You cut in the middle you cut
stuff it
and fill it with whatever you want. For example, if it,
now I don't know if all of Brazil in her area. Yeah.
Yes, depend of the area you can put inside it.
So
fill it.
Yeah. But I think I remember I would buy them at the gas station and I was always save one for later. And once it cooled down, it wasn't good. It was like you needed to eat it fresh.
You need to eat it hot.
Like, warm. Yeah. Yeah. If I let it turn cold, it kind of got, I don't know, a weird texture. And I don't know, it just didn't have the joy because of course it has cheese in it. So I don't know, cold cheese, warm cheese, which one's better? So, all right.
Very good.
Oh man, I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
So, what is
Check this out. Check this out.
Oh, look, the pasta. Very cute.
They look like little muffins.
Oh my goodness. Cute.
Oh, there's
that looks like the one I would make with the fork, where you just roll a fork over it. But no, you've made it with the thumb, where you
like a little shell.
She used the bamboo. This bamboo.
Yeah,
she made it with her sushi mat.
Oh, you made it on the sushi mat.
Sushi mat.
That's there you go.
What's that? It's a pasta.
So that's a pasta. She rolled it in a soup,
and she puts it on the sushi mat.
Suzanne.
Oh, you gotta move your camera.
Oh shoot. Okay, hold on.
Look at that. It rolled itself.
So I've seen them done before, not on the thing, and it just was like a shell.
Okay, here you go.
Okay.
You just take it, push it.
Oh,
that's too cool.
Oh,
and it's got the cup for the extra sauce. The whole point of a noodle is to try to get
that's a lot of work.
Sauce as possible. I've seen that same noodle made, just on a counter, and it would just be basically a shell.
Well, and then the other one, the Artichoke, you just take this.
It's not in the camera. Scoot back.
I can't see it it's not on the camera.
Yeah, there you move it more toward yourself.
There you go.
You take this, you hold this one side, and you go like this. I'm not good at making these. That's supposed to be round. It's not round. Hold on. Let me eat that one.
You just ate a raw dough?
Of course. Just flour and water. Yeah. I'm not good at making Artichoke. Never mind. I'm going to keep making these because these are fun.
Yeah, that's really fun.
Those are really cool.
Oh, this was awesome. Lenny just popped some pow out and you're making noodles. Oh man. You guys inspire me.
Looks like a little butter caramel.
Oh, but the results are wonderful. Most really fun food like tamales or things they're so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a roommate from Mexico, and we once made tamales for some event, and we made like 300 tamales. We had a special pot that was really tall and skinny, and so you steam them in the pot.
Yeah.
So the pot itself was just the normal bottom that fits on a normal thing, but then you could stack. At least it was I can't remember if it was 200 or 300 of them were stacked up in there.
Wow.
And it took, I don't know, 2 hours to cook them at a slow boil.
Yeah.
So, oh man.
Oh, I could watch this all day.
Suzanne, you need to record a video and we put some nice soothing music in the back. And we just watch a loop of you making
it.
Or a
I like your soil judging contest shirt.
You like that?
It's like,
oh, look at that. Oh, cool.
How do you judge soil? You look at it and say, are you good today?
You eat it.
Soil judging is actually when you look at the soil to figure out what it is. And you get a whole bunch of people together that competed, against each other to figure out, is this what what we think it
so
is?
like you need to be very knowledgeable, and you need to like look at some soil and say,
like wine tasting, except you have soil and you got to identify it.
Yeah, and you're looking at going from 0 inches into a pit down to 5 feet, and you have to look at every little layer to figure out, okay, is this where it changes, and what does it change to, and does this turn it into something called like a typic hapludelph, or what are the other weird names, a Udi salmon, and all this other stuff, and then you go against other teams in other collegiate teams. So I was just helping for this one. So because I was on the team back in '91. So I was on the alternate team. I was on the one where we would hop down in the pit and then just point at things and laugh. And go, what the hell's this?
You're like you're a contestant emeritus.
Yes, yes. So I was a pit monitor.
I'm going to thank everybody for coming and wrap up, and then we can, of course, do our usual thing and hang out and talk, because I want to talk about my trip to Brazil. We'll see.